Hello friends, my name is Vas Solo and this is Why Spirit Matters. This series of videos is about how I became a drug addict and alcoholic. In the last video, I talked about my life aged 19 to 25, focusing mainly on my growing drinking problem. In this video, I'll talk about that same time period, but this time I'll focus on my cocaine use. Even though I tried cocaine when I was 20, I didn't become an addict until I was 26. This was for several reasons. First of all, even though I loved the euphoric high, the sudden crash and the subsequent low was so bad that for the first time ever, I thought about wanting to die. I remember laying in bed that night, writhing in mental anguish, and telling myself that I'd never do coke again. Second of all, until I graduated from college and started earning a decent wage, I was pretty much broke. So I simply couldn't afford to do it often enough to get seriously hooked. And the last reason is that it was hard for me to get. I either had to get it from a friend who knew someone that sold it, or from a random drug dealer at an after-hours club. But don't get me wrong, that did not prevent me from still doing it once in a while. In fact, I went through several phases between the age of 20 and 25 when my partying really got out of hand. However, I always managed to rein it in just in time before it completely swallowed me up. It was in those moments that I'd seriously question myself and the direction that my life was taking. I wondered if I'd ever stop binge drinking every weekend, and if I'd ever do something with my life. I was 23 years old, my quote-unquote rap career had fizzled out, and I had nothing going for me except that I was still young. I remember feeling like I was stuck in one place, while everybody else I knew seemed to be moving forward, which gave me serious anxiety. I bet many of you have felt this way at some point in your life, stuck and looking for a way out. It's a painful place to be, I know, because I've been there several times before. But trust me, it can also be a blessing in disguise, because that suffering of feeling stuck can force us to make some big changes. For example, when I was 19 and overweight, I felt so ashamed of my body that something in my head finally clicked and I started exercising. But I've also learned that there are certain things we can do so we don't get stuck in the first place. And I'll share those with you in a future video. But for now, let's get back to the story. So, I was 23 and my life was going nowhere. That's what finally motivated me to go to school and become a personal trainer. When I applied and got in, I was so happy and proud of myself. I couldn't wait to study something that I enjoyed doing and to make it a career. So I set two goals for myself. One was to study hard and to graduate. Two was to cut way back on my drinking and drug use. In school, I was the perfect student. I dressed well, I studied hard, and I got really good grades. But when someone in the program threw a party, my classmates got to see my other side. Not only did I get wasted, smoke a bunch of cigarettes, and hook up with a girl in the program, but at the end of the night when the party was done, I went around trying to convince people to go to an after hours with me to get drugs. So, my drinking and occasional drug use continued while I was in college, but I still ended up doing well in graduating. By this point, I wasn't a full-blown drug addict, but I was definitely an alcoholic. Because anytime that I started drinking, I couldn't stop. And when I made a resolution to quit, I couldn't stick to it. At least not by that point. The one time that I stayed sober for more than a week was motivated by a serious health scare, which happened when I was 25. I was at work, really hungover, and I had a serious panic attack, which I thought was a heart attack. Now, when I told my doctor what happened and confessed to her that I had a tendency to binge drink on the weekends, she said something that really caught me off guard. She said, "Have you ever considered that you might be an alcoholic?" I was deeply insulted. Me, an alcoholic? No way. Alcoholics didn't go to the gym and lift weights. They didn't have a body like this. They didn't have a job or a girlfriend, and they certainly couldn't go to college and graduate with top marks. I mean, I certainly had a vice, but I wasn't an alcoholic. In the end, she sent me to see a cardiologist to get my heart checked, and that ended up being fine. So after about a month of fear-driven abstinence, I slowly started drinking again. And if what happened next hadn't happened, I probably would have stayed in denial, possibly for the rest of my life. So now I see it as a blessing, although I certainly didn't see it that way before I got clean and sober. So what happened next is that shortly after my health scare, I met a coke dealer. He sold me some coke, he gave me his number, and told me he delivered on call. And thus, my 6-year-long downward spiral began. I became a slave to the drug. I ruined all of my relationships, my health, and I hit lows that I never thought I would hit. And that's what I'll talk about in the next video. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button. And for more content, check out my blog and Instagram. The links for those are in the description. And definitely check out my next video, where I'll talk about my 6 years of being a cocaine addict and what finally drove me to seek help. But for now, thanks for watching and see you next time.
Who is in my temple? Who is in my temple?